Hello my friends, and welcome to the study. So glad to be with you here today. I've been away for a while from the study, not by choice, and I've missed you. So I thought today we could do a bit of Latin grammar for the mind, for the sounds. I'm going to be looking at some adverbials in temporal expressions. You can see how temporal expressions and clauses in Latin are quite involved. We have rules for different words, different meanings depending on how you are going to emphasize things. What verb tenses we use, and how we express thoughts. Today, let's look at some of these clauses. Priusquam, antequam, postquam, ex quo, dum, simulatque, ubi primum, cum primum. Meaning before, after, ever since, while, during, until, or as soon as. Looks like we've got some pen marks on our paper, but we won't worry about that. We'll use this mechanical pencil. And this Kawago Sport. Let's check and see if there's some ink in it. Yes. Do you like that noise? I like that sound. And you might hear the wind outside. It's a bit of a spring zephyr. It's nice smooth paper, or rhodia. It's very nice for fountain pen work as well. So let's try to start out with a fountain pen. Let's look at 3 adverbials here. We'll start with postquam. We want to use this to mean after something. Okay, and we're going to use it with the perfect indicative to show sequence. Something happened and something happened before it. So after something happened, the before thing, something else happened. Postquam. What about priusquam? This one, as you notice, can be separated as well, depending on your sentence. Prius is before. Again, perfect indicative. Before something has happened. And we'll talk about those tenses and the difference of that perfect indicative in Latin and English. And this we want to use for the idea of preventing something happen. Priusquam. And the next one we're going to look at is ex quo. As an adverbial temporal expression, this will mean ever since. Right. So it comes from ex quo tempore, since the time, in that relative clause. Again, we're going to see a perfect indicative, and this is indicating the origin point of time. Ever since this point in time. So let's see how many expressions we can do in Latin with these adverbials of time. Let's start out with the English. I was thinking about rewriting that because it's so untidy, but we'll just keep going with that. After the fleet had left the harbour, a very high wind suddenly sprang up. So what can we do here? We have after, which is going to be postquam. So let's start out with postquam. This frames our idea perfectly. After this thing happened, then this thing happened. Quite straightforward. Fleet in the nominative, classis. Now we have a choice of expressions. When we are looking at boats and water, we can express leaving a harbor in a number of ways. Also, as I told you, here in the English we have our after, our adverbial of time, and the pluperfect in English, indicating an action that happened in the past and was interrupted by another action that happened in the past. However, Latin uses the perfect indicative instead of the pluperfect for an action that happened in the past and is finished, unlike English. So, we can use ex ire, to go out, we can use profikiski. Profikiski means to set out, usually on a journey. We can use something very nautical. Solvere. Nauis. So idiomatic here. This is not something that works in English very well when translated word for word. So we have to know our nautical expressions, our Roman nautical expressions. Solvere naues literally means to cast off. Solvere meaning dissolve. So what we can do here is say postquam classis a portu, from the harbor, egressa est. We can say postquam classis e portu profecta est, or even better, we can say postquam classis e portu soluit. Now our temporal clause here with the postquam comes first because we have a sequence of events. So unlike other clauses and adverbial clauses, it doesn't work to reverse the order of the clauses. I.e., a very high wind suddenly sprang up after the fleet had left the harbor. Doesn't work in Latin. What happens is the temporal part comes first, and then the main action, the main event. So, our main event, postquam classis e portu soluit, ventus maximus subito, suddenly, co ortus est. And there's our postquam adverbial temporal clause, followed by our main action. Other small variations we could use would be for maximus, we could put something like ingens. Ventus ingens subito coertus est. There's our postquam. What if we want to use other expressions instead of postquam? Well, we can always use an ablative absolute, classe e portu egressa. We can use cum, our cum clause, cum classis e portu exisset. And we can also use ubi. And this will be with perfect indicative. So, ubi classis e portu exiit. And those are 3 ways to express the same idea without postquam. So our ablative absolute, the fleet having left the harbour, our cum clause, when the fleet left the harbour. Again, the cum and ubi here are temporal. Ubi classis e portu exit, upon the fleet having left the harbour. All right, let's do another one. Let's look at our buddy, Julius Caesar. Our very concise and straightforward military author. Before Caesar crossed the river, he repaired the bridge. All right, now we can use a number of words here for before. We've got priusquam. We can also use antequam. And we can use different verb tenses. Let's work with priusquam. And we'll put this together in one word, priusquam, to be in keeping with what we see in Caesar's writing. It can be split, but we're going to keep it together. All right. So, first we're going to look for our subject. Caesar. And there's our main action. What did he do? He repaired the bridge. So we have our main clause first, in keeping with the manner of Caesar's writing. And we put our temporal clause second, with no unnecessary fronting or positioning. And of course, perfect indicative for both clauses. So, priusquam flumen transiit. Caesar pontem refecit priusquam flumen transiit. Caesar repaired the bridge before he crossed the river. This, of course, seems self-explanatory. What if we want to split this up, the prius and the quam? We can write it the same way and just use two different words, because the quam will normally introduce the second clause, the adverbial clause, directly. Could we do ablative absolute? Certainly. We can say Caesar ponte refecto flumen transiit. Caesar, the bridge having been repaired, or having repaired the bridge, crossed the river. We can also use a cum clause, as before, but now we're going to use pluperfect subjunctive. Cum Caesar pontem reficit. Flumen transiit. Again, we're using our pluperfect subjunctive for our time clause. We could also use antequam. For example, Caesar pontem refecit antequam. Antequam flumen transiit. So that's almost interchangeable there. What Caesar does is emphasize the action of crossing the river. So we have a nice compact form here with our priusquam plus the perfect indicative. So let's do one more. This one is almost like Tacitus, I think. Ever since Britain became a province, and there's our temporal there, we have suffered grave wrongs. So here we have some interesting verb tenses. Now, here we're going to use ex quo. Ever since the time, from ex quo tempore, ex quo tempore. And we'll just use ex quo. Britannia, provincia, and there's our facta est. That we know and love was made a province, or became a province. Graves inurias. Passi sumus. just fit it on the page. Again, we have our ex quo with the perfect indicative, facta est. This is a completed starting event since the time that, ever since this happened. So we have something that happened at a point in time and continued. This with continuing force. Ex quo, something facta est. This continues to happen. Gravis injurias passi sumus. We have suffered grave wrongs. Here's another one of those instances in English where when we use the perfect indicative, it can mean an ongoing situation, and that's what we have in the Latin. Our perfect indicative. As you can see, we don't have a really strong narrative sequence. We just have a situation that is ongoing. Durative starting point. So it comes as emphasis in that it is a political complaint. And we have our Britannia provincia facta est, with our Provincia and Britannia right next to each other. Right? And we have gravis injurias. Our adjective is coming before the noun that it modifies. So both of these things, these little anomalies in word order, show us where the emphasis is. We're emphasizing that Britannia is a province and was made a province. Ex quo tempore Britannia provincia facta est gravis injurias, not just injurias, gravis, but our emphasis is on the kind of wrongs that we have suffered. This, at the end, a very classical closure there. Why don't we use something like postquam? Again, this is more of a political complaint rather than a sequence. We could use the ablative of time, ab eo tempore, quo Britannia provincia facta est, to be more explicit and lend more weight. Let's try that. Ab eo tempore, from the time that, quo Britannia provincia facta est. I should write that out because we like the sound. Britannia provincia facta est. Gravis injurias passi sumus. There is another one. From the time that. One more way we can assert this ongoing wrongs that the Britons were suffering in adverbial, temporal sort of clause. We could say ex quo Britannia in provinciam redacta est gravis inurias passi sumus. This is a bit gerundive there, provinciam, redacta est. So a little bit more heavy-handed, so military almost. Here I think is more of the type of political complaint that it seems to be. So what we have seen here is our expressions of postquam for after, priusquam before, and ex quo ever since. And what we've used here when we use these adverbs is our perfect indicative to show a completed action. We've seen how we can use different expressions for the same action, and how solvere is good for navy or ship terms. We've seen how we can use the ablative absolute. And we've seen constructions with cum and ubi, where cum gives us our sort of historical feel with the subjunctive. It gives us an idea of sort of a causal or circumstantial clause. But as we're working with time, when we want to emphasize sequence, such as origin point, or one thing happening before another, we can use postquam and ex quo, and priusquam, a kind of prevention. As we saw with Caesar and the bridge. He can't cross the river until the bridge has been repaired. So there is our Latin, and I hope that has relaxed you in mind and spirit, and helps send you off to a very restful sleep and a peaceful night. But before we go, I want to thank all of the study friends, everyone watching, for coming, spending this time in the study, and for your patience over the last month when I was unable to make as many videos as I wanted, if any. Had a little bit of a hiccup there, but don't worry, the study's back for you. So I would like to thank especially our February study patrons. And I'll draw a little small design of a sextant there. Not a very good one for the sextant level patrons of the study who have stayed with the study and are a most valuable part of our community. Pirate Carrie, thank you. Thank you. Romulus, thank you. Thank you. Ben, thank you. Thank you. Joshua, thank you. Thank you. Theorem, thank you. Thank you. Andreas, thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you. And Carman 1000, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who supports the study. And we'll see you again soon. Be good to yourself, be kind to others, and be extraordinary.